Falcon!
Now in today's recommendation, I do have to start off with a bit of a warning, as the movie I'm talking about today deals heavily with sex and sexual violence and can be pretty disturbing at times. So if you're not comfortable with any of that sort of stuff, then this movie is definitely not for you. Now the movie for this recommendation is none other than Belladona of Sadness, which was part of the Anime-Rama project, a trio of erotic films done by Mushi Productions, the anime studio founded and originally led by the godfather of manga himself, Osamu Tezuka. However, Belladona was the only film of the trilogy to not have Tezuka on board, as at the time of the film's production, he left the studio in order to focus more on his manga career. However, while Anime-Rama was an ambitious idea, especially during its time, it sadly wasn't received too well worldwide, with Belladonna winding up being one of the nails in the coffin that led to the closing of the original Mushi Productions. However, over time, the movie did manage to receive a cult following and eventually was remastered and distributed worldwide once again for all to see, which is fantastic since this movie should really have a lot more attention around it. Now, the story here takes place in medieval France, where a couple wishes to have their marriage blessed by the royal court. However, upon being unable to pay for the marriage tax, the royal court then basically gang rapes the woman of the couple, Jean. After that horrific event, Jean returns home to her husband, where she starts having visions of a very phallic-looking demon trying to help her out. This eventually leads to her being ran out of town on the suspicion of being a witch, breaking Jean down to truly want revenge on the royal court that ruined her life. Now, if I were to describe part of the charm of this movie, is that it feels like a very surreal, twisted, and provocative adult fairy tale with its setting and structure that even has a few parallels to the tragedy of Joan of Arc. However, what truly elevates this movie into being a must-watch is the production values behind it. As you can already see for yourselves, this movie has a style to it unlike any other. A majority of this film is done through these just drop-dead gorgeous paintings aided with narration and zooming, allowing the movie to achieve a level of beauty and intensity it wouldn't have been able to if it went with a standard method. Now, the whole movie isn't just still frames, as there is animation used for certain scenes, as well as these really surreal animated sequences, some of which had me wondering if I was still watching the same movie. Since, I thought this took place in medieval France. What's all this? However, there's a lot more to it than just looking pretty, as every frame of this movie is able to invoke a great amount of emotion and power. I'm pretty sure you could watch this entire movie without the narrations and still perfectly understand what's going on. I mean, let's look at the beginning of this movie. Everything slowly blooms into these bright, beautiful colors as we see our happy, youthful couple that you can just tell are truly in love with each other. All this, when aided with the music, which we'll get into a bit, has everything seem very dreamlike and wonderful. A few scenes later, and things start getting grayer and gloomier as we start to learn about the marriage tax. But then things get amped up to nightmarish as Jean is then raped by the royal court, and the imagery on display truly has you feel the pain and horror Jean must have gone through. Which, mind you, I can't fully show here as we're on YouTube. And despite being a truly terrible scene, it was executed amazingly. Once the royal court is done with Jean, she returns home where everything becomes bleak and washed out. And mind you, all of this is just in the first 10 minutes. The rest of the movie is still full of wildly expressive and powerful imagery that I can't say I've ever seen done on this level before in anything else. Then of course we have the music, which fits the film like a glove. While sure, a mainly psychedelic funk soundtrack may not fit in this setting, but it definitely works with the rest of the movie, blending in well with the surreal imagery and further amplifying it. Then there's also the beautifully dramatic main theme of the movie, which is very reminiscent of the themes of other Japanese movies like Lady Snowblood and Female Prisoner Scorpion, both of which are classic female revenge movies. The best way I could really narrow down why you should watch this movie is that, simply put, it is an experience. There is really nothing, at least to my knowledge, done similarly to this movie. I haven't seen the other Anime-Rama entries, being 1001 Nights and Cleopatra, but from what I have seen of them, I can definitely tell Belladonna is easily the most ambitious and art house of the project. Till recently, as mentioned earlier, this movie was mostly forgotten. Though I can tell it did leave an influence on quite a few people within the anime industry, like Yuasa Masaki and definitely Sayo Yamamoto, mainly in her work on the Woman Called Fujiko Mine anime, which I also highly recommend and have done a review for in the past. Overall, Belladonna of Sadness is a beautiful but dark fairy tale of a movie that, if you could handle its dark subject matter, I highly recommend, as it is an experience you will not be able to get anywhere else. With that, I hope you do check out Belladonna of Sadness, as well as enjoyed this video. As always, I am Mr.FalconPunch. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.